fact, the doctors told me to just eat sugar every however long I needed. Like they gave me little, like a roll of little sugars. And they said, if you have to, take it every 5 minutes. That'll keep your blood sugar up.
Adrian, how did you find carnivore?
It's been a long process of trying so many different things and then landing here. I've been overweight my whole life. I was an overweight kid. My parents started me on my first diet of just trying to restrict the standard American diet. And I remember just being hungry all the time. I mean, we would be eating spaghetti and I just never felt full. And so I just thought there was something wrong with me. And I guess everybody else did too. They thought she's got an eating problem. Nobody ever looked into it much further. So my whole childhood, I was really bullied for this, and it was really tough. And I identified as a pudgy kid, and I had self-worth issues and all that. So I go into high school, and this is when I try my first diet, I guess, because I just really am restricting, and I start running, and I play soccer, and I'm in cross country running, cross country skiing, track, basketball. I'm doing all the things. I'm just moving, moving, moving. And that was great for high school. But then I went to college and the movement stopped. And then we had access to more food because they have like the cafeterias and stuff. And I immediately gained 60 pounds. This is when I go on my next diet is my stepmom says, let's do Atkins. And I lost weight on it. And that was great until I went back to college and I gained it all back. So I've got these different things of like in my head, I just have to work harder. I just have to work harder. I just have to work harder. I have to work harder. So it's just not working. And I hear about this TV show called The Biggest Loser. And I see the finale photos and these people look amazing, huge transformations. And I'm like, okay, this is the ticket. So many times in my journey, this is the ticket. This is going to be the ticket. So I go on The Biggest Loser. I lose 66 pounds. I'm looking fabulous. But I didn't know until now that that type of dieting, all of these diets were killing my metabolism, absolutely torturing my metabolism, putting me into fight or flight. All this dieting. My husband's never dieted in his life. If he cuts a few things, he'll shave pounds off real easily. He's pretty resilient. He can eat a lot of things and maintain his figure. But me, from all these years of dieting, my body doesn't trust me. So I go on Biggest Loser. I look fabulous. I lose 66 pounds and I go home and I gain 100. And this is when I'm starting to feel just really defeated. Like I am such a broken human. Something is wrong with me. Something's wrong with my anatomy or maybe it's my willpower. I did a lot of willpower blaming. And I struggle for years. We go to have babies and I start seeing some red flags of health. Like one red flag is gaining 100 pounds. The next red flag is having difficult time getting pregnant. I get pregnant and I have no milk for my baby. So this is another red flag. I'm also super tired. So my next thing that I do, I have another child, no milk with her either. Both of my kids have colic. All this is just kind of brushed off as flukes, fluky. Nobody can really give me answers why this is happening. But being the person I am, I start my first elimination, and my first elimination was alcohol. So I go into a 12-step program and everything because I'm like, I can't have this in my life. That's where people go to get rid of it. I am not a moderator. No moderation in this lady. So I quit the alcohol and then I decide I'm going to tackle this weight too. I forgot a piece. In my second pregnancy, I ended up with an illness called preeclampsia, where your blood pressure spikes through the roof, and I gained 60 pounds in 6 weeks. So in this pregnancy, I end up at 330 pounds, and that's when I stopped weighing myself because seeing the number on the scale made my blood pressure go up more, which made my weight go up more, and I'm just getting huge. So I quit drinking and I start running and restricting again, just like I did on The Biggest Loser. And I lose 100 pounds. So I get down to 230. So I lose 100 pounds running and restricting again. So all this diet. And then my weight starts going up again. So then I reach out. We have like an alumni group of all the people who've been on the show, The Biggest Loser. And I ask some people who'd been losing it and keeping off because a lot of us gained it back. I'm going to go with at least 90%. Most people, eh, I would say 100% of people had some weight gain, and most people probably gained much of their weight back. So I asked some of these people, like, what are you guys doing to keep the weight off? Because I'm willing to do anything because I am tired of being big. And they said bariatric surgery. So I look into this and I do all the research, and everything is this is the ticket. This is the thing that is finally going to fix me. This is the thing. And the research shows that people lose their weight and keep it off. It's a great metabolic reset. And so I go in like, yes, this is going to be the thing. And I give it my all. I am training for half marathons. I'm following their diet plan to a T. I am tracking all my food. There's some holes here, but it overall though, whatever their plan is, I'm going to be successful at it because I'm going to do it the best I can. And I get down to like 165, which is also where I got in The Biggest Loser. This is also where I was in high school, so this is like a stuck point for me. And I start going back up again. And I go to the doctor and I tell him like I am eating 1,000 calories a day, 1,200 calories a day. I am running 20 miles a week. I'm weightlifting. Why am I gaining this weight? And they said that I must not be tracking correctly. And I'm like, I don't know. It seems like something's wrong. And so they run a little bit of blood work, but they run the TSH and tell me I'm totally fine and that I just am not working hard enough at it. So,
Yeah.
any
Just
person,
eat less and move more.
yes. So any person in my situation would just kind of go, I give up. And I didn't give up. I've never given up. It's only been breaks along the way. There's been a few breaks of just regrouping, re-getting motivated. But I continue to do this. But about a year after my surgery, maybe it was 6 months, that's when the issues from the surgery start coming in. I start having anemia. I start having low energy, chronic fatigue. My inflammation starts going up. My autoimmune illness, I didn't know at the time, but my autoimmune illness starts kicking in. But worst of all was the hypoglycemia. And I'm telling you, I am not eating any sugar at all. I already know in the diet that I'm supposed to be eating veggies and meat. So that's what I'm eating. I'm eating no sugar at all. And I am in the grocery store and my blood sugar's dropping. I'll be on a run. Halfway through my run, my blood sugar drops. I throw a birthday party, my blood sugar drops. It's dropping all the time to the point I can't barely leave my home. And nobody seems to have any good answers. In fact, the doctors told me to just eat sugar every however long I needed. Like they gave me little, like a roll of little sugars. And they said, if you have to, take it every 5 minutes. That'll keep your blood sugar up. And I quickly learned that was horrible, horrible, horrible advice. Because if I'm having hypoglycemia and I eat this, it would bring my blood sugar up, but then it would dive right back down. And so I was on this roller coaster constantly for 10 years. So it's been 10 years since I had my surgery. So in this 10 years, I am determined like I have at this time I have 2 kids. I end up having 2 more kids. I need to be a mom. Like, I need to be able to leave my home. So I eliminate more and more and more. I keep having this chronic fatigue. Um, there's a divorce in there. So there's a little bit of trauma in there. And then I get remarried. We go to get pregnant. We lose a baby. And I was just told that was a fluke. So there's these like red flag things that nobody seems to have answers to. And we go to get pregnant again. We struggle to get pregnant. We get pregnant. There's no milk again. Red flag, red flag. So this baby number 5, this is where we've tried it all and we end up towards carnivore. I decide I'm going to birth this baby at home because we need that natural process. I was told I just wasn't natural enough, and that's why I didn't have any milk. There just wasn't enough nature. So we birth the baby at home. We stay skin to skin for 6 weeks. We have lactation people come to us. We have the pediatrician come to us because it's the bad virus time. So they were doing that. We have craniosacral therapy for me and baby. We have all these things, and we come to our 6 weeks appointment. The baby hasn't gained weight. So this is when I go from standard medical care to functional medicine care. Also in here, I had caught the bad virus and I wasn't feeling well and I needed help and I wasn't getting help that I needed in standard care. So this is how I had met my functional doctor. Another seed in this time is my midwife. I told her, listen, my previous pregnancies, no milk, preeclampsia, anemia, all these things. And she goes, okay, I need you to eat 12 eggs a day, lots of butter, and lots of red meat. And please salt your food and your water. And I was like, what? So she kind of planted in my brain making good blood requires eating red meat, requires butter, requires eggs, requires these animal products. So I go to give birth, no milk. I find out from my functional doctor I have Hashimoto's, I have lichen sclerosis or psoriasis. I don't remember how you say it. I have adrenal issues. My adrenals are completely dysfunctioned. My inflammation's through the roof. I have chronic fatigue. But she didn't really have an answer of like how to fix it other than I need sleep and I need some help with my kids. So I just researching because I just don't want to give up. And also at this time, I'm up to over 200 pounds again. So we're struggling with weight again, and I'm not feeling good. And that's when my dad, who had gone no grains, no sugar with a guy named Vinny Tortolich, said, with autoimmune illness, you should try the carnivore diet. And it took me a few months. He told me he lost like 60 pounds doing it. So I had been watching him for months doing this. And the seed was planted in November. I start listening to Judy Cho, to the different people. I start listening to success stories. And then January 2023, I said, okay, no more plants. And I cut the plants. That's really all that I needed to cut because I had already cut dairy. I had already cut, which dairy is carnivore, I know. But for me, in my state with all my food reactions, I got to tell you how sick I was. I was having food reactions every time I ate. I had no energy. I could barely drive. The brain fog was at a dementia level. I was having terror. When I ate, sometimes my arms and legs would go numb. Sometimes electrolytes, I would drink an electrolyte, and literally minutes later, my arms and legs would go numb. Sometimes my neck would go numb. It was very, very, very scary. I had gotten so ill on the inside that I was not functioning and I had to do something. So that's how I found the carnivore diet.
What a journey. That's so how long has it been now that you've been on carnivore?
So I started January 2023. And prior to that, I would say I was so low carb that maybe I was more keto prior to this. So this isn't like it wasn't like a culture shock by any means, but
And things just cleared up?
so shortly after joining or starting the carnivore diet, I had run into Judy Cho's chronic inflammatory response syndrome. So the whole time in the back of my mind, I was hopeful that just eating meat would clear everything up, but I had to move as well. Our home had just a little bit of water damage, but I was so sensitive and so sick that I couldn't handle it. So it took cleaning up the air as well, and I'm doing the shoemaker protocol. But I can tell you some things that absolutely were cleared up, shoemaker or not, from just eating carnivore. One is the hypoglycemia, 100% gone. 100%. And before it was like it was underneath my skin, the low blood sugar, and it could happen at any time. And so you kind of lived like in fear, not knowing because it was coming on from stress. It wasn't the food, it was the hormones were so off. So by removing the plants that were stressing my body out, I stopped having the hypoglycemia. I stopped having as many food reactions. I can't even remember the last time I reacted to food. I have had no arms and legs going numb since going carnivore. The numbness has gone away. So I don't know again if that was just like even the food was so inflammatory to me that I would eat something and everything would go numb, but if I stick to beef and eggs and butter and these animal products, I just don't get that anymore. It's helped with a huge thing it's helped with is my weight. Because you get to be full, for me, I don't know if it's just for me, if I stick to meat, I get full. And so it's been really helpful too with like food addiction. Like I said, I'm not a moderator. So it's been great for so many different things, but for me, I also needed to clean up the
So that that getting full thing is such a different feeling to when you're on a normal diet, right?
Hmm.
Like getting full on a normal diet is like my buttons are about to pop. Getting full on carnivore is like I feel comfortable now.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have these where you are, but where we are, they have these shakes. And you're supposed to just like drink 3 shakes a day. And people will
Uh,
say, "Oh, I'm so full." And it's funny because okay, you might be full for like 5 minutes. Let's be honest here, guys. It's full of soy and wheat and garbage and it fills you for like 5 minutes. But like meat, you could be full for 6 hours. Maybe longer. Some people only eat once a day.
yeah, and I've experienced some small hypoglycemic kind of things earlier on in my life when I was in my 20s, and it's a horrible feeling. You get the like you just feel suddenly weak, you're shaky, you get the sweats. It's horrible. And it's so nice on carnivore. Just it's just stable all the time. Everything's just the way it's meant to be.
One thing people say is, what about if you eat too much meat? Doesn't it turn into sugar? Whatever it is, it doesn't affect your insulin the same way plants do. And even if I was drinking, let's say, a protein shake and it was the plant protein, it would still cause this reaction that just the hypoglycemia, it still would cause the inflammation and stuff. But there's something about the meat, even when it converts into sugar, it doesn't have the same insulin response.
For the last I guess what's that now? A year and a half. The last year and a half, how have you been eating?
So usually I've been a pretty good tracker, but lately I haven't been tracking. But let's say I eat a lot of beef. And I've even dipped into lion diet for a while and I feel good, but I do feel like I need fish as well. I don't know if it's my I think we probably still do need a little bit of variety. So I primarily eat sardines and beef. Sometimes I love eggs, but I'm still working on I'm a little sensitive to them. I've even tried the pasture raised egg yolk only, but I get really sleepy when I eat eggs. So I love eggs. I eat butter. For some reason, butter doesn't seem to affect me. There's not enough of the milk protein in it or whatever. So I'm eating a lot of burger patties. I'll get them pre-made just because it's easy and you can throw them right in the air fryer, right on the grill. I eat a lot of picanha. I don't know if you guys have that where you are, but it is such a tasty meat and the fat just melts right in your mouth. It's so easy. And then I eat a lot of I'll eat ground hamburger too, and then I eat a lot of sardines. And I know sardines just sound so disgusting, but there's something the profile of them make me feel good. It's like the best vitamin. It's like the best supplement I could possibly take. I throughout time on top of trying all the different diets, I've tried all the different supplements too. I can't say all, but like I've tried anti-metal, detoxing your metals out. I've tried detoxing your parasites out. I've tried many different protocols, different vitamin Ds, different magnesiums, but the supplement that seems to make me feel the best immediately is sardines. So that's primarily what I eat. I drink a lot of salt water still from the midwife. And
Hmm.
those are my main things. I do have periods now where I eat dairy. And I know with the autoimmune illness, maybe it's not optimal, but I just love dairy. It's so nice to put a piece of cheese on your burger patty. It's nice to mix a little creamer in your decaf. I've been fairly, because my nervous system was so off for so long, I've been off caffeine for a long time. But sometimes I'll have a little decaf, which I've been told I should really look into cutting.
So just on the sardines, like sardines is a supplement. And I really I kind of feel as well like the best supplements are real foods, real nutritious foods. I kind of like sardines as well. I'm just not crazy about the smell, but apart from that, it's fine.
Found different brands are better than others. My favorite is, I don't know if you guys have Walmart, but they have this great value in water, and I love that. And then you add your own fat. And then I like the King Oscar is a great brand as well. They have some that are skinless, boneless, which typically I like the skin and the bones because I like that nutrition. And Dr. Boz says you get less of the burps, the fish burps, if you have the skin and the bones. And then I like the Seasons brand.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, when I eat them, I have the skin and the bones. So yeah, I've never experienced the burps. I think that's probably a good thing.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So, the rest of the family bought in on this way of eating?
So my husband's still standard American, but he has had to listen to me talk about this for the past year and a half, 2 years almost. And we've also made a lot of friends because this is a big community. He's made a lot of friends with people and seen other people who are thriving on this. And so he's having a hard time because he does have a couple issues. One of his issues is sometimes his guts just get inflamed out of nowhere, and he's even ended up in the hospital from this, where his guts got so inflamed he couldn't eat food and he had to have his stomach pumped. So he knows he needs to cut seed oils, and he's trying to eat a little bit more meat, but he's struggling with soda pop addiction. Now, he fully supports our children eating this way. So our baby, from his first food was steak. Both my last 2 kids, both of their first foods were steak. And we gave them bone broth, and, we really just that's what they had access to was meat. When we go out right now, sometimes my biggest ones will ask for chicken nuggets, but I won't eat those anymore. There's, like, 47 ingredients in chicken nuggets, and they're cooked in, what, like, 8 different seed oils? So I just see them as, like, little cancer balls now, so I say, "How about burger patties?" And they're like, "How about chicken nuggets?" I say, "How about burger patties?" So recently, we've done this so many times that as we're out, they'll say, "Can we get some burger patties with a side of bacon?" So they're really getting there. And then my oldest, they still like juice and diet pop and stuff like that. But my youngest, he'll say, "Can I have some water?" And he'll steal my salt water and just guzzle it. He just has no idea. He just guzzles my salt water. So the kids who've had this since they were born do a lot better than my big kids who experienced more keto-y type stuff their whole life.
Wow, that's really interesting. And so, have you been back in touch with any of the alumni from the show and maybe talked about what you're doing now?
Yes, so there's at least 4 of us who are carnivore. And I'm sure there's quite a few ketoers in there too. I don't know. So I started a series on my channel, Adrian K. Gledhill, where I'm interviewing different biggest losers to see, did it work out for you? And if not, what are you doing now? And what suggestions do you have for other people? Because, this is the testimony for it all, you guys, is if these hardworking people who can be so successful, many people got all their weight off, all of it. And that's a really difficult thing to say. When you look in the diet space, you're going to find very few people who actually get all of their weight off. They'll get stuck in the middle, which is kind of where I am, sort of. I'm lower than I was before. I'll go into that in a second. But um, they actually got all their weight off on this show. And if they can't keep it off, why would anybody else think if I just try harder, it'll work? Because it doesn't seem to work for anyone. I mean, I think there's like 380 of us. So that's a pretty big test group. And they've tested people afterwards and found an incredible reduction in metabolic health. And then they tested them 5 years later and their metabolism had not healed. So when I talk about the biggest loser, but really the diet was very similar to what doctors are prescribing and what people out there are doing. 1,200 calories, break it up, break up your plate, and exercise as much as possible. So people out there are experiencing very similar metabolic issues as we are on that show.
I remember watching this when I was younger and just feeling like there's no way I could do this amount of exercise all the time. It just seems impossible. Um, I mean, for most people coming off that show, it must be like, okay, well, I feel good. I've lost this weight, but how am I going to keep this up?
Yeah, there was no post show. Here's what you need to do. Unless you're gonna I think even if you continued to work out 6 hours a day and ate 9 to 1,200 calories a day, you're not gonna keep it off because your body's onto you, and your body doesn't like that. Your body thinks that, "Oh my gosh, we're running from predators constantly, and there's no food anywhere. We're in a famine." And so your body completely shuts down. So there's just no way that anybody even if you did continue, it would not continue to work. And so I could see most people gaining all of their weight back.
So just on the show, Um, one thing I do remember from that is the coaches or the trainers shouting at participants when they're exercising. Is that kind of real or is that just for the cameras?
So one thing is that the trainers are really only there when the cameras are there, and the cameras are only there a couple hours, a couple times a week. So the trainers aren't there yelling at you all the time. They're like, it's a lot less organized than you think it is. What you see on TV, they filmed all the instruction that they got. Once that filming was over, they went home. And so people were on their own and feeling a lot of pressure to succeed. And so a lot of disordered things happened. There was as little eating as possible. There were people restricting what water that they drank. I remember before the finale, I was like the only person that didn't get a colonic. People were in the sauna with bags on and they were chewing gum and spitting. Just very crazy, disordered things were happening in order to look good at the finale and to win. And I don't think it was about the money. I think it was about finally not being big and finally not being what we all thought was a big loser. I mean, I think a lot of people felt that they were losers and that if they went there, they would finally not be. So the name of the show is kind of, and when I look at that stuff, when I look at them yelling, you did this to yourself, you blah, blah, blah. Well, my friend Todd was like 700 pounds. Do you mean to tell me Todd did that to himself? Are we completely neglecting the fact that there is a metabolic issue at play here on top of lipedema and lymphedema, which doctors don't even know what that is. And so here they're starving this kid who isn't having an eating issue, he's having a fluid and a movement issue and an inflammation issue. So I hate that screaming that they did this to themselves and they should be punished. Another thing is the workouts. They have this thing called last chance workout. Guys, one workout is not going to make you lose weight. The workouts actually have nothing to do with the weight loss. The eating has to do with the weight loss. The workouts are to build muscle and have health and longevity and strength. So, this idea that if we work you out so hard, you're going to lose weight, it's a lie. In fact, it's probably causing inflammation.
The other thing that I really hate about this, you did this to yourself, is you can't blame people for how they are, whether they're 200 pounds, 300 pounds, 700 pounds, whatever it is, when they're not educated. You can't,
Mm,
no one educates people about how to eat, you know? And if you don't eat the same as everyone else, you almost get ridiculed, right?
mhm.
And
And
people
one
grow
more
up,
thing.
that's their life. Mhm.
One more thing I hate about this is it's completely removing, and I'm not saying we can't take responsibilities for ourselves. We can. We can once we learn and make changes. But I know a lot of people who are eating salads out there and pouring their seed oil dressing on it, and they're working so hard and they're doing the very best they can, but the advice that they got is incorrect. But it also, this you did this to yourself is removing the fact that processed foods that we are being told are totally benign and fine are addictive, they are hormone disruptors, they are inflammatory, and so we have a food problem as well. So it's completely removing the fact that we have a food problem. I've been overweight my whole life. You mean to tell me that as a little kid, I have emotional eating problems? I mean, and that is it. That's the only problem here. There's no other problem. Because I know a lot of kids who emotionally eat and their metabolism still is like, I know a kid who can eat two pizzas. He is a string bean. Then you have my son who's like, pass the green beans and chicken, please. And he's overweight. You can't tell me that it's just what we're putting in here. It's metabolic as well.
You're in the States?
Yes, I'm in Minnesota.
Yeah. Do you feel like in the area that you live, things are improving or much the same as they've always been? Are people more aware of healthy eating, do you think?
I think I live in an echo chamber, so it's really difficult to say. But I do have to say that when the bad virus came, that people started looking outside of everything that we've ever been told before. And I think that they were doing that in many different areas of life. And so a lot of people have, let's say, started to buy a cow from a local farmer. So I do think that there's way more awareness in the past 4 years. I mean, I know that's part of the reason I'm here is because I just started, I stopped listening to everything that I've always listened to and trusted my whole life. Now I don't trust anything.
Yeah, I think similar to me. I think 2020 was a wake-up call for a lot of people. Yeah.
Mhm.
For you, is this just the way forward from here? There's no going back?
So, partially because of my surgery, if I go back, I get that hypoglycemia back. And I don't want that. Even if I didn't though, because I've had to feel it for so long, I know that when we eat these carbs, we're having an insulin response. You might have great blood sugar, but that's because you're having an insulin response. And when we keep messing and overproducing this insulin, it's messing with the rest of our hormones and it's just not healthy. It's causing disease. We see all the time thin people having difficulty getting pregnant, getting dementia, getting cancer. Well, you're just not wearing around the fact that you're having issues too. So I guess I'm kind of lucky I get to wear it around in a way. But I've had to feel what's actually happening, and so just knowing that that's happening, I don't think I can go back. Also, when you watch this content and stuff, you learn about the chemicals and what they're doing to your insides. We don't get to see it, but it's happening. So I can't ever imagine going back. Another thing is I was having this incredible anxious feeling underneath my skin all the time. And it didn't matter what medicine they put me on, that anxious feeling didn't go away until I cut the vegetables. So to me, there was some inflammation happening or so it was messing with my brain a little bit it was too inflammatory, it was too much for my body and I feel great. So I would never want to go back because I don't want to feel like that. So the feeling is what keeps me here. If I when I add dairy back, I gain weight. Like if I add artificial sweetener back, I gain weight. So it cannot just be a weight thing. But I can tell you, I started out at 202 pounds and I've been between 155 and 165 for a year. So this has been the most stable weight, even going through the healing that I'm going through. I'm still struggling through some chronic inflammatory response syndrome. I'm doing the Shoemaker protocol. I still have some brain healing to do. I still have some hormone healing to do. I have some inflammation to bring down. So I still have some stuff to work on. But even with that, when I get to be full with this meat and I stick to the meat, I feel my best, and my weight has been the most stable it's been. Um, on any other thing I've tried. The other thing is when you try other diets or ways of eating, I feel like you get left hungry. And I hate being hungry. I hate going to bed hungry. And so I'm so grateful. Like, even if let's say I'm hungry before bed and I just go eat a couple eggs, like, it's okay. It's just nice to be full. It's nice to be nourished. I used to have 1,000 wrinkles on my forehead and they're slowly going away. It's crazy. Your skin gets so much better. My vision has been getting better. About a year ago, I got put on a prescription for eyeglasses for the first time. So probably I just was ignoring it. So I get my glasses and I just can't even wear them now because my vision has gotten better. So I just can't imagine going back.
That's awesome. So, could you tell us a little bit about the Shoemaker protocol for you for SIRS?
Yeah, so the number one thing is so they say, let's say we're a fish and we're living in a fish tank and the water is super dirty. Those fish aren't going to thrive in that super dirty water. And so they say the same thing about our air. And at first I thought that just sounds so woo woo. But it turned out to be true. We had to move 5 times to find a place where I wasn't going to get sick. So it was really hard on my family, really hard financially, physically, spiritually, in every way. It was really hard on my family. But we finally found a place where I've been getting better. So it's true. You do have to look at your air. Now, not everybody can move, and I couldn't move all the time either because I would move into a place. It's hard to test a place before moving it in. You'd be like, hold on a second, I got a little Swiffer here. Don't mind me. I'm not doing anything, and then sending it in. And it's really difficult to test a place before moving in. Uh, and then they're not going to pick you either if they find out you're super sensitive. So we'd move into a place, I'd be like, dang it, I'm going to get sick. And anyway, so spot number one, clean up your air. And if you can't move, that means getting a good air filter, having one safe room. The next step is taking some binders. There is charcoal and clay. That's great for pulling out like heavy metals, but the toxins we're trying to pull out here are a different charge, and so we use a different binder. So I take these binders and it pulls it out slowly, slowly, slowly. And then next, a lot of times when you're inflamed, like I did all these parasite protocols, but they would just come back because my gut lining was so inflamed that they just thrive there and they just keep coming back, keep coming back. Another thing, when you're inflamed, you get this nose infection. It's a multi staph antibiotic resistant infection. And so you got to clear that out of your nose. A lot of people have Lyme's, long haulers. When you have these sub infections, once you get your inflammation down, you start clearing those sub infections out. For a lot of people, that's SIFO, SIBO, cleaning that out. So next you work on those. And then finally, you take a peptide that boosts your brain back because all this inflammation has unfortunately caused brain atrophy, which is why there's brain fog and just different issues. So that's the process, and you got to kind of go through it. But number one is clean up your air, even if that means an air filter.
Well, I'm glad you finally found a place. That's great news. If a friend came to you and said, "Okay, I want to start this carnivore thing," um, what advice would you give them to get started?
I would start with following some people on YouTube and listening to it, whether that's in the car, like any minutes that you have right before bed. Sometimes I was listening to it like while doing dishes. I'm not a big watcher, I'm a big listener. So you turn some stuff on, and to me that was my first step, is learning the why. Because if you don't know why you're doing this, you're not going to stick it out. Like Paul Saladino, I don't agree with the the fruit thing, but he gives a lot of the why behind cutting some of the plants. You know how altered they are, how sprayed they are, and the components in it and how it affects your body. So having the why behind me makes some of those plants not even look good anymore. They don't even look appetizing to me because I know what they do to my body inside. And also you learn about, this is such a paradigm shift. We were told that they're so nutrient dense, these plants, and in reality, the nutrients that are in them, first of all, they've been depleted throughout time, and secondly, they're not in a bioavailable form. Like we don't have the right digestive system to break it down, so we're getting like 2% of the nutrition. So the first thing is figure out your why, and then for me too, it was looking inside. What am I hoping? When you watch stories of hope, you look at types of things that could heal from this, so that you could get better, inspiration. So once you've really built that why, then I would just cut it all. And if you have to, because we don't want this to be miserable, I'm okay with a bridge. I did a bridge. I had added back. This is so disgusting. After after I was done breastfeeding, I had added back International Delight coffee creamer, which is 100% chemicals and there's no cream. So my first 2 weeks of carnivore, first 2 weeks of carnivore, I kept that in my decaf. And then after a couple weeks, I was like, this is actually quite disgusting and I don't even want it. And then you get rid of it. And so that would be, and another big thing that's going to be really helpful is to cut the sweetener because it messes with your hunger cues. So those would be my big tips. And then also know it was miserable for all of us. I mean, I don't mean to say miserable, but like a week in, I was so sick of meat that I thought I'd rather just not eat. Because before this, I was eating a lot of plants. They go down easier. I could just graze on plants all day long. So I was eating a lot of plants. I was eating a lot of product because it was easier for me to digest and it just seemed lighter. I kind of like that light feeling. Like, So a week after, I felt like I had meat aversion. And if you just wait a few more days, the meat aversion will go away and you will start craving meat. I know you will start craving it, and feel free to have the red meat. I was eating nothing but chicken before. The red meat is amazing. Let yourself have some red meat. And if you have to, too, like if you have meat aversion, add a little sauce, add a little mustard, add a little butter. I added butter on top of like everything. And it was so butter and salt on top of everything. It was so good. So, and then there's the digestive issue where some people have, they go from being chronically constipated to having liquid movement, and it does get better. It really does, and I would just stick it through it. Really, those are the only two bad things I can think of, is a little bit of meat aversion and a little bit of digestion. But honestly, for me, I was like, praise the Lord, things are moving, and I was actually okay with it. But so those would be my tips.
So a lot of people going into this would be kind of feeling like, okay, well, but this is just a diet, right? Now, we often talk about it. Well, it's more of a lifestyle than a diet. Once you've been on it for a while, you realize that, right? But for someone who might be new, what is it that really separates this from a diet and makes it more of a lifestyle, do you think?
How you feel. I mean, your mood improves, your energy improves, your skin improves, your sleep improves. I mean, it's the only way of eating I've ever gone on that makes you feel better. And then the feeling of getting to be full. There's no other way of eating where you get to be full for more than 30 minutes. It's like the plants and the carbs kind of mess with your hunger cues. I've heard people say it and I've tried it myself. If you eat a steak and a salad, you could be hungry a half an hour later. If you just eat the steak and skip the salad, you could be full for hours.
Yeah, and it makes everything in your life so much better, right? When you're not thinking about food, it just makes you more productive. It makes it easier to concentrate. It's everything gets better.
Let me tell you too, if you do it right, it is more affordable. Because you're not buying all those ingredients, you're not buying plants and throwing them away, you're not buying a bunch of sauces that are filling up your refrigerator that you never use, you're never buying weird ingredients like some of these keto recipes. You just buy meat, and you get time added to every single day because it's so easy to just throw a steak on the grill. I use my air fryer 3 times a day. It's 5 minutes till I get to eat. I mean, it's better than the freezer meals that we were eating growing up. It's better. You just pull it out of the freezer and you throw it in the air fryer. And I mean, within 10 minutes, you're having this delicious, juicy steak. Here's another thing. I don't even like to go to eat that much anymore because I cook for myself so much better and it's more affordable. So we're saving money, we're eating good, and we're saving time.
Nice. So, Adrian, how can we find your YouTube channel and what kind of videos have you got on there?
So I'm just my name, Adrian K. Gledhill, and I'm on YouTube and Instagram. Those are my main things. And what I've got on there, I've got a show with these ladies, the Lioness Lifestyle, and we mostly interview women and medical practitioners about their journeys eating meat and being moms and overcoming illness. And then I do interviews too, where I just interview different people who've inspired me, and they tell their stories and they give information on that. And sometimes I'll share, like if I'm doing a challenge, I'll share how my challenge is going. I need to do that more because doing a challenge to me is different than doing a diet. Doing a diet means I want to lose 5 pounds in 30 days. And to me, that's just very short lived. Doing a challenge is I want to work towards my longer term goal of having more muscle, having more brain power, having more healing. To me, a challenge is a stepping stone towards feeling better and being stronger and being healthier. So that's the type of stuff I share.
Nice. Well, I'll link to your Instagram and YouTube below. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story, Adrian. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.